The Kraken Nightmare difficulty quest is insane. I've been asking for difficult PvE content for a long time, and Gumi finally delivered. The enemies will inflict you with status effects, deal really large amounts of damage. They're all resistant to damage types, so you really have to mess around with those, and then you can't really inflict your own status effects on them because they're almost resistant to everything. So I decided to give myself a little bit of an extra challenge when going for that quest. I read everything there was to read about it, which monsters have which abilities, how many uses, what are their stats, and then I built a team of MR or lower only units to try to challenge it. The reason for that is I've been building MRs for a long time, and I wanted to use them for selection quests, but when the light selection quest came out, I was able to clear it blind without any prior knowledge in one attempt, including all missions, which was a little bit disappointing. I felt like my account was too strong. But this time, the content is not designed to be beaten by MR units, it's designed for UR units to struggle against. So I feel like I'm gonna have the challenge I've been asking for a while. So we'll first take a look at my team and why it's designed to fight the specific challenge, and then we're gonna show you the final run and whether we succeeded or not. So let's begin by looking at the team. First of our MVPs is Livial. The reason for that is she has insane healing. If you're not familiar with this character, she's a black mage, but she has the arithmetician subjob, and her master ability gives her healing power up, which is very important. With this, she can full life just about any of our MR units using a height 2 Cura. So she's there for two main reasons. The enemies are almost all resistant to magical attacks, so she won't do a lot of damage. What she is here to do is heal people and disable the turtles. So as we'll see, there are a batch of turtles that are weak to disable, so if you use height 2 disable, changing the passive from 3 to 2, you actually have a 70% chance to disable them with every cast. That is very important. We do have to keep into account though, it costs 32 TP, so we're going to run out fairly early. Then the Cura will also almost heal everybody. The entire fight takes place in a height 2, so if you reduce height 3 to 2 here, it's going to heal for a lot. So that's our first character. Then we have Nasha. She's there to be our tank. She's going to generate hate and live for as long as possible. She's got almost 9,000 HP, which is really good. Good defense, okay spirit, but with 30 fate, it's hard for the enemies to CC her, while she's still not going to take a lot of damage from magical attacks. So that's all there is to her build. Dragon's Blade will maybe heal her a little bit, but she's really just there to be a wall and keep the enemy hate. Also, Nasha has an ability at level 120 called Divine Veil that makes her immune to poison, stop, and immobilize. That's really important because in this quest, all the turtles are going to be immobilizing our units, and the birds are going to be stopping our units. So if I can make sure she has hate, the enemies will waste their status effects abilities onto her, and it won't actually work. So that's very important. Then the real MVP is Shadowlings. She is one of the only units in my experience that can be evady enough to dodge the enemies in this map. Enemies have about 300 luck and 80 accuracy in this map, so it's really hard for an average unit to build for evasion. But she has the highest evasion in the game right now, as far as I know, with 480 luck and then all the evasion gear we can have. And with that, she's actually able to evade most attacks. Keep in mind, enemies still have a chance to hit her because they still try to attack her. So it's not perfectly reliable, but it's good enough for our attempts. So here we go, she's going to do a lot of damage, that's mainly what she's there for, and we'll use her as our assassin. She can do two things, she can chain with 3-hit attacks, or deal massive damage to squishy targets. So that's what she's here for, and our mission is designed that we'll lose everybody else as we go, and Lynx will probably be the only person alive at the end. And then Marial, she's mainly there because she also has Arithmetician, and as we've seen, she can disable enemies. But she also has a little bit of healing, and then magic-based slash attacks, which are very important because the turtles use physical barriers, and then they're almost impossible to kill with your Shadowlings or other physical attackers. But by using slash attacks, to which they are weak, that are magic scaled, we bypass the barrier completely. So that's why Marial's in there. And then finally, Elshra, she is also there for the powerful slash attacks. She has Hazard Slash, which almost one-shots the turtles. The only issue, though, is she only has 2 casts, so she's going to be the first one to run out of utility in our team, but when she hits really hard. Okay, let's take a look at our run now. Okay, so here we are in the mission. There's a couple of really important things. First of all, Shadowlings is there to assassinate the enemies with the highest amount of accuracies very early. She uses bells and runs up. If you go up and instead of down, what happens is you don't trigger the birds and the Kraken very early because they are in the lower side of the map. Then we send Marial to disable the turtles. It's a 70% chance on every single turtle, so we are very lucky to get all 3. The reason why I have 2 arithmeticians in my team is because it usually requires the 2 of them to disable all 3 turtles. One of them gets like the first 2, and then the other one disables the remaining. So at that point, I'm not too sure what to do with Livial. She was there to do that or heal Shadowlings if Shadowlings got hit by the Archer Zero, but I just end up doing a little bit of magic damage. The archers have about a 20% chance to hit Shadowlings from the side. I don't know the exact numbers, of course. I did not do the math, but I tried the mission 12 times before this specific run. So this is attempt number 13. So I know the numbers fairly well just from experience. Nasha's role is to generate as much hate as possible. I have set as much AP generation up passives as I could so that she can throw Tuning Blades fairly often. If she does that, she's going to be able to maintain the enemy's hate for a while, and then she'll perform fairly well. Venera is the most accurate enemy on the map. Fortunately, there are no more Veneras that spawn after you kill the first one. So if she's down, she's no longer a threat. She does take away a bunch of HP from Shadowlings, but I believe everybody else after that is bound to miss Lynx. I don't believe Oldua has ever hit Shadowlings in my previous attempts, so I know even though Oldua goes before I can heal Lynx, I'm fairly safe at that point. Then Marial could go for some damage, but as a Spellblade, her initial AP is really low. What I want to do is generate AP by healing, by disabling enemies, and doing a bunch of these moves, and then eventually I'll go for some damage. Then I haven't tried streaming for this. It was my first time streaming. Overall, it was really fun. The people that were there were super nice gang, and we ended up chatting a lot. And while I do record this separately, I use the video from the stream, which is why you have a couple notifications that are going to pop up on top of the mission. So sorry about that. Nothing I could do about it for this specific time. So at that point, Livial has 2 choices. She can heal or she can disable people. That's the reason why she's in our team, because the enemies in this map have a really high base magic resistance, and then there's Spellblade Dario running around just giving extra magic resist to people. So when there's not a lot of damage on our guys, she wonders what to do. She also has Luel's TMR, Wish for Peace. When I use that, it's going to give the affected allies a, luck up and a couple other things, but mainly stop nullification for 3 turns. And the birds have 3 abilities that they can throw out that have a base 50% chance to stop, which is really high. On our team, Shadowlings has a ribbon maxed out, so that reduces her base stop chance to 20% onto her. So I was lucky that even though she was hit, she did not get stopped there, but it's not entirely luck. Also, the birds have about a 20% chance to hit her, so I was surprised she got hit altogether at that point. Then I use the disable because I want to renew the disable chance on the turtles. They had already played 2 turns, so they only had 1 more turn where they could not play. And then I realized I had a chance to disable Nasha, but that was only 40% or so I took it. Maybe I should not have. Now I've lost my tank, and I've lost my tank at a really bad timing because she does not have the Divine Veil that makes her immune to stop yet. That means she can actually be stopped, whereas in my usual runs she cannot. Now, Livial is really squishy, especially against Dario, because what Dario uses is Aeroga Blade, which has a Wind Killer 25. I need to make sure I don't get close to him with Livial because he's going to one-shot her, and well, she's my best healer. If she goes down early, we just lose the mission. So Livial uses Frozen Hurricane to give our guys stop resistance just before the birds throw another AoE stop. If I had not done that, I would have lost Livial and Marial right there. Elshra has a 50% stop resist, so she would have been fine. But without our healer, again, this run would be doomed. So here I'm kind of wondering what to do. I figure it's finally time to throw out the Hazard Slashes. These guys have been there for a while, and I need to start killing something. I've also dealt a lot of damage in AoE, so I can kill people as fast as I can when I start killing. The reason for that is, at the 3 kill mark, there is 3 more turtles that spawn. Then, at the 5 kill mark, there are 2 more archers that spawn. This means the first 5 kills you do don't actually make the mission easier because there's as many new enemies that come around. In fact, it's even worse because they come around with new ability usages and they're not currently disabled or anything. So I need to be very careful of the first kills. After the first 5, every additional kill is going to reduce the actual enemies on the map, and then it's just going to make the mission easier. So while I choose who I kill first, I try to kill the most accurate enemies before anything else. The reason for that is they're the ones that can kill Lynx. If I can kill every single accurate enemy and make sure that the remaining ones are out of moves to use, then Lynx is going to be able to just basic attack all the remaining enemies to death, which is the idea here. I'm not trying to do a perfect run with all the missions. I honestly don't think it's possible with MR-only units, and if somebody wants to take on that challenge, good luck, I'll be really thrilled to hear about it. So at that point, new batch of turtles spawns, I really need to disable them, so that's what I choose to do, and I need to avoid targeting Link with my height 2 disable, because there is a 50% chance that I disable Shadow Lynx. If I do that, a disabled unit has its evasion chance reduced to 0%, which means Shadow Lynx will instantly die. She is not tanky, she's just evadey. So I do spawn the extra turtles and then the archers, and I decide to kill one of the birds. These birds all have 1 stop attack remaining, so I make sure that they use 1 less, and there's only 1 more move before they're completely reduced to a non-factor. At that point, there are 2 big threats remaining on the map. Kraken, because he has 20 ability uses altogether. He can throw a bunch of them and make sure that my guys are never truly safe. And then the other one is the new archers. They have the AP for their barrier break arrows, and I need to make sure that they don't kill anyone. Shadow Lynx, I believe, still has 2900 HP at that point, so she will not die from a single barrier break arrow, but it's a really risky situation to be in. So Marielle, I wonder with her, I want to use the Aigayan evocation eventually for a bit of extra damage. But at that point, I'm mainly wondering, should I disable the enemy? Should I try to deal damage? I have a lot of AP, but I'm almost dead. And I come with a realization. Healing Nasha is really hard because she has low faith. It does bring us with a bunch of advantages, but it makes it really hard to heal her with abilities. What about items? Are they affected by faith? Now, I've basically never used items in War of the Visions. I think that's the case for most players. They're just not needed for usual content. And even here, they're really needed because I'm giving myself a fun challenge of clearing this with MR units. But I have this funny thing called a High Potion, or X Potion, which heals for 5000 on Nasha. Nasha takes less, well, around 1000 damage at most by attack, so that's at least 5 more attacks she can tank from the enemy team. And then if she does end up coming back and using her abilities again, that's going to be even better. So it's really powerful. I used to have a bunch of Phoenix Downs, but I used them in the selection quest, so I'm out of those. But if I had them, it would make it really easier to clear the no KO mission even with MR units. But in this case, I realized that I have 2 X potions, so I can do that 1 more time before the fight ends. Who would have thought that items would be a very important part of clearing a mission in War of the Visions? A lot of players don't even know there is an item button, even though it's on the screen. So that's pretty funny. Here, I have a tough choice to make with Livial. I can choose to heal my guys, or I can try to disable 2 more turtles. I choose to heal. I'm still not sure if that was the best decision or not, but the thought process behind it was that I was going to just potentially lose my tanks and other healers, and I figured Livial was going to be able to survive the turtle's attack for 1 turn. So I choose to do that, then they go and do a couple things, and I quicken Livial to then try to disable the remaining turtles before they go. I think it's my only use of Quicken throughout the entire mission, but it ends up being very important because if those turtles go, we're in a big amount of trouble. It ends up renewing the disable on Oldoa, which is pretty good, and then on the other turtle. What Oldoa does in that mission is she uses Drain Force. That's the main reason why I avoid hitting her for a very long time, because she can heal back for a lot. She has 8000 HP, so her Drain Force does about 2000. It's not a lot, but it's like wasted attacks, and our team does not have a lot of AoE, a lot of very powerful attacks, right? They're MR. They have a lot less stats than some other things in the map. So I choose to just ignore Oldoa for as long as I can. Now, where we are in the mission, we know that every single kill is going to help us because there's no more spawn of enemies. We know the bird is a non-factor, and I have not managed to count at that point how many turtles have used all of their flattens or not. They only have 3 casts each, but it's really hard to keep count when there's 6 different turtles spawning throughout the map. Some of them are disabled, some of them are not. When they're not disabled, they always choose to use flatten first, but some of them have been disabled since the beginning of the mission, so they might have used 0 of them. So with Shadowlings, I decide to kill the archer first. Again, the archers are the most accurate enemies. Once these guys are out, I would say Kraken is my priority, because he will never run out of abilities to use, and if he lands a couple lucky hits, he's gonna take my guys out. So Kelfie misses with the energy buster. That was pretty funny, and at that point, my Elshra is almost dead, but she has 1 more cast of Drain Evocation, which I can use to heal back. I decide to cast that on Kelfie. Kelfie is one of the 2 enemies in this mission, against which magic attacks work pretty well. It's Kelfie and Vinera, I believe, that I can hit with magic attacks for a large amount of damage. It's pretty good in the case of Elshra because it heals her, and then she's really squishy, so she's going to be the priority target from a bunch of enemies. Shadowlings has ended up using all her AP from bells. It's always funny when that happens in PvP, because that means you did not manage to kill the enemy with that much AP. But in PvE, it happens fairly often. And at that point, the reason why she has the Samurai sub is because the illusion ability has a really high TP cost, which allows her to generate a lot of AP with it. Then you see the enemies still trying to hit her, but with the illusion buff, it's even harder for them to do so it's fairly reliable. Again, there's an amount of RNG here. If she got hit by a couple attacks in a row, I would be forced to reset the run, because I would lose my only powerful carry. So another barrier break arrow comes out, and now Nasha finally plays. If you haven't noticed, she has been stopped for the last, I think, 15 minutes of my run. I'm running this in ×2 speed of the of my recording, so you guys don't take too long watching this, but it had been a really long time since she got a turn, and when she came back, I wasn't even sure what to do with her. I need her to generate AP and tank again by using Tonic Blade, and I also want her to separate from the rest of the team, because there's a bunch of AoE attacks that come in. So with my Shadowlings, I decide to go after the remaining archer. I can't really use Shadowlings to kill the turtles because they have physical barriers of 50%. Ideally, I want to kill the turtles with somebody like Marial. But now, Marial has some positioning issues. She is immobilized, and all her slash attacks are in a line, starting from her, which means all I have left are the attacks from the Arithmetician subjob, which are unfortunately magic type attacks. And then these turtles are going to keep applying Immobilize forever. It's really hard to move Mariel from there. For Livial, at that point, if you look, she only has 20 TP left, which means all I have is a single cure before she runs out of utility. She also has the auto cure passive, and if that procs, it heals her for 3000 HP. I'm wanting to rely on that because it means the enemies are going to waste a couple more attacks onto her. So I'm hesitant. I don't want to use my heal just yet. I feel like I can get better value out of it, so I decided to try to finish off Kelfie with a magic attack. Again, she is the only character I can really kill with those magical attacks. So for Nasha, priority, generate some AP. I don't want to use any move that does not, outside of Tonic Blade, because what she needs to do is really generate hate. And now we lose our first character. At that point, I know. Well, I knew from the beginning, but that is a confirmation that I can no longer clear the all missions run, because as long as somebody dies, we won't get the no KO. We do not have any revive on our team. But my teammates dying is actually a good thing for me. I don't like saying that, but they are the only characters in this mission that spawn crystals. If your enemies die, when they disappear, they don't. They just disappear from the map. But allies will become crystals when they expire, which means that every time I have somebody that dies, I have access to a little bit more healing. And while I do have characters with healing capabilities, they depend on TP, and they eventually run out. So I decide to use my next potion on Livial. The reason for that is I want her to proc her auto cure and keep tanking the enemies. I really need her to do that. So because I want my enemies to ignore Shadow Links. They have a small chance to hit her. If they hit her and immobilize her, I'm done. So we end up trying to do a little bit of AoE damage. I am hitting the turtles at that point with links because I'm basically out of magic-based slashing move. I need someone to kill them. So Nasha has enough AP for another Tonic Blade. That is very important. We use it, hit Oldoa. Oldoa is not my priority target. As I said, she can heal, but I was able to hit 2 wind units with my Tonic Blade from an ice unit, which felt pretty good. And then Mariel, well, she's still immobilized. All she can do is throw magic attacks. Out of the possible targets, the one that takes the most is Kraken, so I decided to start cracking that nut and hitting him. And then with the chain that we've built onto Oldoa, I can finally finish her off before she starts healing. So we've went through her entire HP pool, I believe, before her getting a single turn, which means she never had a chance to use Drain Force to heal. That's pretty good. It also damages the bird, but again, I don't care about the bird. All he has left in his kit are basic attacks. So I move all the way across the map and face the enemies so that I cannot get hit in the back. If you're not familiar with how evasion works in War of the Visions, an attack from the side has 15% more chance to hit, and an attack from the back has 30% more chance to hit. So if my Lynx gives her back to enemies, she might die a lot faster than otherwise. So at that point, Kraken goes for some attacks. He hits for a surprisingly large amount of damage. I'm really scared whenever he plays. He also has a move that reduces healing power and a move that can blind my team, which are very high threats. Something I did not mention is I also try to blind enemies with Shadow Links, which increases her survivability by a lot. But in this specific run, every time I use Night Veil or Dark Haze, it would fail, except if it were to kill the enemy, in which case it doesn't really have an impact. So I'm left with a Shadow Lynx that barely has any AP. Now you see the power of the counter heal. My Liviala goes back to high HP, and I'm really wondering what to do with her at that point. I have Flare, which can do okay damage. I have a couple things, but overall, when she's out of TP, she's really out of utility for our team. And then I realize something. She has Bio, and there is one enemy in the map that is not immune to poison. That's Dario. If I poison him, I can ignore him for the rest of the fight. That's really important because all my units are out of AP, out of abilities to use. It's really hard for me to do the remaining damage that I need. So I end up using Mariel. I'm wondering who I finally hit with a slash attack because now I can move. And I'm not even sure what I picked. I think I picked one of the turtles. The reason for that is Lynx can kill Kraken fairly well, but again, the turtles have barriers. They're really hard to kill with physical attacks. So I end up poisoning Dario, there we go, then Shadow Lynx decides on who to hit. I just keep using basic attacks. Using my abilities on turtles is not worth it because, well, unless I'm finishing them off at the very end, but I prefer to hit the turtles with something else. Nasha isolates herself. She has hate, so I try to bring the enemies to her and make sure they ignore the remaining guys on my team. At that point, I'm pretty sure everybody else on my team is going to die. There's not much I can do to protect them. I try to use the Cactuar Esper from Livial, but I realize that even that flat 1000 damage is reduced by physical barriers, so that's pretty funny. Fun fact, in other Final Fantasy games, I don't think it's reduced by anything. I think it's always been like a perfect attack. But in War of the Visions, it is reduced, which means it's fairly useless to throw that ability out there. So here we go, finally pick up the crystal from our first ally, and we lose the second one. So I know I have some more healing coming out from Shadow Lynx. But crystals have a cost. You have to be very aware that if one of our characters positions next to the crystal, the enemies can also pick them up to heal. And since we're struggling with dealing damage here, I kind of have to make sure I play it safe. At that point, I'll finally use Saintly Cross from Nasha. The reason for that is there's no more casts of Tonic Blade available. I can no longer generate some hate, so why not try to finish a couple enemies? We do kill a turtle, we kill Dario as well, so he's no longer a factor, but against our remaining guys, Dario could not do much. As an ice unit, he really struggled with dealing some damage. So I decide to move on to Kraken. I believe everybody else on the map at that point doesn't have any abilities left, except for Kraken. So I go for him, but he's fast enough that I cannot use Dream Within a Dream and chain onto him from this position. So I decide to use one of my moves to increase future damage. And then again, I'm not fast enough to use Dream Within a Dream and Chain, so I have to choose some other moves. I choose the one that costs the less amount of AP, which is Hien, and just hit him with a normal attack. So here we go. There are only 5 enemies left. I think you can already tell, so I'll spoil it. This run is a success. We managed to finally clear this mission. Nasha and Shadowlings are my only 2 EX unit in this batch, and no surprise there, they are the 2 remaining guys. I've been especially surprised by the efficiency of Shadowlings throughout the run, but Nasha also tanks for a really long time. When she uses Sentinel, she goes to over 100 defense and 57 spirit. The reason why it doesn't work that well is because every single enemy, I think, in this mission has some form of defense penetration or spirit penetration, or both. So it's actually really difficult to make sure they don't deal any damage. Especially since like the birds use magic and piercing on their normal attack. Kraken has typeless, missile, and magic style type attacks. The turtles use striking attacks. The archers use the missile attack and whatnot. And then Oldoa uses Drain Force, which you cannot resist. So there's a bunch of different enemy types that are going to come in and just deal types of damage you cannot prepare against. So here we go. At that point, I'm going to finish off the Kraken, and this run is pretty safe. The enemies have a bunch of HP, and it's still going to take us a while to take them out with normal attacks, but we'll eventually win. Alright, that water felt really good. So let's just watch the remaining of the play. I do want to prove that I cleared it in a single run, so I have to let this go all the way. What I do here, I would love to give the crystal to Nasha and have 2 people survive the mission, but I cannot afford to get that. Nasha only has a move of 3, and if she goes next to the crystals, the turtles are going to follow her, and then, well, you can tell, they're going to heal, and it's going to take a while longer for me to clear, and then there's also the chance that I'm unlucky and they get a couple hits on Lynx. So I decide not to do that. I go in, and at that point, Shadowlings no longer has an AoE attack. All she has are basic abilities. I wonder who I should hit. I don't deal a lot of damage to anyone, and the big reason why I don't want to hit the bird is because the bird doesn't really take any damage. And he doesn't deal any damage either. Like, he's pretty tanky, but his attack score is really low, especially compared to the turtles. So if he lands normal attacks, it's a lot less impactful. I end up evoking Golem. That deals okay damage to a bunch of guys. Nasha still holds on. You can tell these enemies hitting her for really low damage, and she just stays there for a long time. I conserve some CT by not moving. If that's something you're not familiar with, if you don't move in War of the Visions, your next turn comes by 20% faster. If you don't act, your next turn comes by 20% faster as well, which means if you do neither, well, your next turn comes by 40% quicker. So there's a lot of math behind it, but that's the TLDR version. So by not moving, I'm always making sure that my next turn is a little bit faster, and that's pretty impactful into getting our victory. At that point, Nasha is finally down. She's just about to go. She has served us very well in this mission, so we will try not to pick up her crystal as well. There we go. Finish off 1 turtle. There's only 2 remaining enemies. I end up picking the other crystal. That's something I could have done throughout the mission, is try to give the crystals to units that had run out of AP, or of TP, because it renews TPs on units. But that did not end up being necessary. We finally, with our final remaining character, kill the other bird and manage to win the mission. Now, obviously, not a perfect clear. We have 2 KOs and we never killed 3 enemies simultaneously. But I would say that's still a pretty good success considering what the challenge was here. So that was it from me, guys. Hopefully you had fun watching this really weird run. And would you like to see more of these funky challenges in the future? I would love to do them. This was really entertaining for me, and honestly, it was a blast doing it on stream with people, but just rethinking about our whole strategy and how we made that work was very satisfying. So if you want to see more, let me know, and then thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.